know?
It's such an interesting question, isn't it, Polly? This knowing, this sense of truth inside us. For me, there is a definite body response, and I feel it in my gut. And then like it is definitely for me in my body, but only because I've spent so much time working on the bridge between the brain and the body. Can I recognize that now? It certainly wasn't like that earlier on in my journey.
Did it trip you up earlier in your journey?
Oh, it certainly did. There have been some big instances where I had that strong, this is wrong, this is not the right thing. But my mind said, oh, but it's convenient and cheaper, and there'd be some easier aspects of it. And so my mind convinced me to go. And in the end, it was not easier or cheaper. It was a tough lesson to learn like that.
Kind of difficult though, I think, to that moment. I think we've all had one of those moments where we suddenly go, oh, that's how I know, because there's you have that sensation all of your life. You have that, whether you feel it in the gut, and you and I both feel it in the same place, so that can present some challenges as well. But you have that sensation, you carry it with you through life, and you don't know what it's communicating with you until you have a very clear correlation between a good experience and that hesitation that you might have before you do something. And I think it's important to have those moments where it drops in how your intuition speaks to you. So I mean, I've had similar situations where I've just made a decision. I've gone with a course of action that every part of me was saying no, and it's just been awful. Not worth it.
And this, I think, is really important for us, right? We do need the contrast most often for growth. And this is, somebody can tell you what the answer is, but we as human beings, we need to have these experiences ourselves for them to be integrated into our bodies. That is like nobody can give you that gift. That is work we each individually have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be open to the experience of it. Even if you don't want to call it work, you've got to be open to the experience of it so that you can learn it directly. Because as you said, you can tell somebody what the answer is, but unless you feel it, you're never going to understand those contrasts. You're not going to get it. I remember the moment that I realized my intuition was talking to me at such a subtle level, that it was such a simple thing. I was just putting on my diffuser in the morning, and I picked up an essential oil that I had never put in the diffuser before, and I just clocked it. It was one of those things. I just clocked it, did it, meditated, got on with my day, and then I thought, oh, I wonder what that oil represents. And I went back, and it was exactly the right oil I had needed for that day. But I didn't have this sudden sort of like, this thought that I must do it. It was just, I picked it up without any processing. And for me, that was such an important lesson, to understand that the quietest voice that I have is the one that is my intuition talking to me, and that it didn't come across as in the way that anybody else had ever told me it should do.
I think that's so powerful what you just said. If it is not an actual emergency, it is so much quieter in our bodies, right? There is that subtle stillness and that ability to listen and trust and step out of the trauma programming that's running our brains so often, it's a learned skill, right? We have to learn to hear that subtleness. And it means we have to get comfortable with the stillness.
Oh, and that's a journey in itself, isn't it? Getting comfortable with the stillness.
It's
Not
really
easy.
hard. It's really hard. And there is nothing in the world other than, some of us, this that tells us that it's safe to be still. Everything in the world says, push harder, faster, move, go, what's wrong with you? So really stepping out of that is already uncomfortable. And then to move into stillness.
And also we want to, particularly in the business field, we want to be being productive. We want to be making progress. And the concept that stillness is part of progress is so alien. But that's where the communication happens. That's where the inspiration is birthed. That's where the ability to expand is held. If you don't have the stillness, you're always in this sort of like big bang expansion mode without the ability to come back to wholeness again and then move out. It's just like it's constantly stretching you. So that's, I think it's become such an endemic problem in the way that we run our businesses and the way in which we are guided to grow our businesses, to be permanently in an expansion energy. Whereas the stillness is part of the process of deconstructing, it's part of the process of healing, it's part of the process of finding the inspiration to move out. And if we don't make space for that in our day-to-day business lives, but also in the way that we are working to grow our businesses, then we're not going to be able to ever engage our intuition, engage our body wisdom, or any of those things at a proper level.
Yeah. And I think that really touches for me on why this is a 10-month container we're offering, why we meet twice a month throughout these 10 months. This is really spacious to allow things to trickle in, to move past the brain into the body and really create space for integration, or for you to notice where you're coming up against something that we need to look at.
Yeah, and it's totally experiential rather than this is the answer to your problem. This is you finding the answer to your problem. So you're experiencing it, you're learning it, you're integrating it into your body, which makes it sustainable. Because as you were talking a little earlier, I was thinking about the toxicity of the repeat client syndrome. You've got to keep coming back for the next level. It's like, well, why? Why can't we teach you the skills that you need to be able to continue to evolve, to continue to expand your business? Why not? Why does it have to be you've got to come back?
Yeah.
And but by being experienced, it's integrated. By being integrated, it's sustainable. So it gives you the ability to change on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
And that to me is an absolute no-brainer. I just don't understand why we've done it in any other way, but I know that's me.
Well, and I think and you've seen it, right? And it's been like some of the work you've done has been really integral for me to really see the way we are on that program of not enough. And uh, I haven't always been aware of how strong that is running. And when in some of the conversations we've had where I can really see that's really getting in the way of, expansiveness and joy that in the way I want to be in the world.
Yeah. And I mean, it keeps on coming. There's so many deep layers of this, that you, even though you think you've stepped off that path, you think that you're doing things in a different way, that conditioning is so deep. And I actually uncovered some of that in the last couple of days for myself, just like thinking about how I wasn't encouraging my community to really step out of their comfort zone, because what we're told to do, and it's very carefully done, is to give people the safety of the answer. Now the problem is there isn't a safety of the answer when it's your answer and it's not the mainstream answer. I can't give you the answer that works for me, because it's not going to work for you. Got to be able to be supported to find your answer, step outside of your comfort zone, build your capacity to expand, and address all of that. It's not a quick process. Sorry.
No.
I wish it
That's
was.
right. That's right. And we all think that, if I just find that next person. And I know for myself, there are moments when I'm, writing up some messaging and I'm like, oh, I just wish I had the perfect word. But it's not about the perfect word ever. And this, really taking the time to feel in, where am I at? What's going on? And what do I want to convey today? And then trusting that that is coming across for the people I have soul contracts with.
Exactly.
This is, and you and I are very specifically here to open up space for all these individual people who have a very special role. And that role, I don't know what the role is. You don't know what the role is.
Nope.
We're here to guide you to find out what your role is. And if you already know, to step into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big piece of changing the whole paradigm that we're in. It's a new dynamic that we're moving into, and it's just feels completely different, and it's going to operate completely differently, and it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
I'm so excited. I want to